Okay, you guys, I am so nervous, but if you've been following along in the last couple of weeks, you already know about my feelings towards the Ausländerbehörde. To be honest, I really had no intention of carrying it on to what it was, really. I just wanted to kind of tell everybody. I wanted the Germans to know, what it's like for foreigners to live in Germany. I also wanted the foreigners to know what they might be in for when they first arrive. But there were so many of you, Germans included, that said, you know what, Jenna, you really have to do something about this. You really have to say something. You inspired me to contact them. It only took a few short days for them to respond and say, you know what, we'd like to invite you back to the Ausländerbehörde to understand why things are the way they are, to interview the head honchos at the office and ask them a few questions. So I'm on my way to the bus stop. I'm gonna show up half an hour early because I am also conveniently getting my Niederlassungserlaubnis today, which is my permanent residency title. I've been asking you guys over the last couple of weeks, what questions do you have for them? I'm like the middleman now, trying to figure out why is it such a difficult process and why is it that people like myself can't sleep, have nightmares about their appointment coming up and are always unsure, despite the fact that they have all the documentation, whether or not they're actually going to receive their residency of whatever it is they're applying for. So let's go. Just want to say I know how big of an opportunity this is to finally be able to get in and ask questions and talk to somebody to figure out what is it that we actually do need to do in order to make these mistakes. So I'm really hoping that I make you guys proud and that I can help a bit. I'm just really honored for the opportunity to be able to finally speak to somebody about this and hopefully get some answers that we've been longing for. Alright, so the video I'm about to show you has been a compilation of your questions that you sent over that I wanted to ask the immigration office in order to get the answers that we need. I asked the questions in English and the head of the immigration office, Frau Koch, answers the questions in German. Now at the end of every question I am going to kind of reiterate what she said and explain my thoughts on that answer in order to hopefully help you guys get a better understanding of how we can change, how we can make the system better, and then perhaps get some inspiration on how they can improve the system as well. So without further ado, let's head on over to the interview, which was conducted and filmed at the immigration office here in Düsseldorf, Germany. When it comes to competing for highly skilled immigrants to work in Germany, the first experience at the Ausländerbehörde can be quite intimidating. What are your tactics to attract and retain these highly skilled workers?
Also grundsätzlich soll es natürlich nicht so sein, dass man bei dem ersten Kontakt mit einer Ausländerbehörde unangenehme Erfahrungen macht. Ich bin der festen Überzeugung, dass wir hier die am besten ausgebildetsten Menschen sitzen haben müssen. Das haben wir auch schon zum Teil. Die freundlichsten, die mit viel Sprachkompetenzen und so weiter. Das bauen wir gerade noch auf. Aber ich glaube auch, dass es schon vorher anfängt. Also Deutschland hat ein sogenanntes Fachkräfteeinwanderungsgesetz, aber das ist wirklich reformbedürftig und ich nehme mal an, dass das auch bei der neuen Bundesregierung jetzt angegangen wird.
Yeah. So what Frau Koch was basically saying is that there is this Immigration Act in order for them to be able to recruit these highly skilled workers, and that they hope and they try to hire the most friendly people that they possibly can and the most well-educated people that they possibly can to be working at the front office with the foreigners. Unfortunately, that's not always the case. So I would say in this regard, if this was not the case for you, or if this is not the case for you when you go into an immigration office here in Germany, it might make sense to actually submit a statement to let them know exactly who it was that you interacted with and what they said. I would say the most important thing here is if you have a bad experience, please ask for their name. This is something that I've never done, and without a name, they are not able to do anything. My message to all of the immigration offices would be these tough security guards standing outside. I'm aware that they're there because people do get upset and do get angry because it does take a long time to go through this whole paperwork process. However, this is probably the #1 frustrating thing
for foreigners coming in and going to the immigration office. For the officials from the immigration offices watching this video, you need to put a lot more importance on picking the right security guards and the right front desk employees. That does not mean that they have to be overly nice and perfect in customer service. It's just something to keep in mind that this is the first experience that internationals have when they first arrive to Germany.
So the documents that I've been sent from the Ausländerbehörde have been quite difficult to understand, that even sometimes my German husband can't understand them. Have you considered offering the website and perhaps the paperwork in other languages or even just this leichte Sprache?
Ja. Also ich glaube, dass diese Erfahrung macht jede von uns, eben auch ich selber, wenn ich von anderen Behörden Post bekomme, dass wir manchmal dazu neigen, sehr verwaltungsdeutsch zu formulieren. Auf der einen Seite gucken wir uns immer unsere Unterlagen an, die wir nach außen schicken, damit die wirklich verständlich sind. Und was eine Mehrsprachigkeit angeht, da ist zum Beispiel die Corona-Informationsseite der Stadt Düsseldorf ein sehr gutes Beispiel. Die ist sehr schnell entstanden. Ja. Da gibt es einen Reiter, man kann, glaube ich, jede Sprache der Welt auswählen und es wäre wirklich super, wenn wir das auch auf unserer Seite hätten. Ja. Wir werden uns demnächst ein bisschen damit behelfen, indem wir einzelne Informationen in die häufigsten Sprachen übersetzen, also die 10 häufigsten Länder in Düsseldorf. Ich glaube, da ist noch Luft nach oben, aber der erste Schritt wäre halt wirklich zu prüfen, ob die Unterlagen, die wir rausschicken, wirklich gut verständlich sind.
So here what Frau Koch was basically saying is that she and other people that she works with do understand that this is an issue, because even documents that they get from other governmental offices is also hard to understand. So this is not just a problem within the immigration office, it is throughout all German bureaucracy, but this is something that they know they're working on, and before they can actually go ahead and make all of the paperwork in multiple different languages, they want to make sure first that what is actually in that document can be understood for foreign immigrants. Now, I know this doesn't really give you a very good answer at the moment, so my answer would be don't try to do it all on your own like I did. Find somebody who speaks and reads German, or hire somebody to support you to understand that document. I know it sounds a little silly when I say that, because you think, oh yeah, I can just go online and Google Translate, whatever's in the document. It's a little bit harder than that, because as I mentioned, my husband sometimes doesn't even understand what it is they're trying to get at. So again, here, all I can say is that you need as much support as you can get in this case. All we can really do is hope that the immigration office makes a quick change here for us in regards to offering the paperwork in multiple languages, or even a link to the words that they know are going to trigger confusion for immigrants.
What would you recommend to the foreigners in order to prevent them from making the same mistakes that many of us have?
Ja, wobei ich glaube, eigentlich müssen sich nicht die Menschen vorbereiten oder besser vorbereiten, die etwas von uns wollen, sondern wir müssen besser sein in der Übermittlung, welche Unterlagen benötigen wir. Und das, glaube ich, ist genau richtig gewesen jetzt in der Umstellung. Die gesamte Ausländerbehörde arbeitet im Backoffice, und das heißt, wir geben diese Checklisten raus, und die müssen so gut sein, dass die Menschen, die ihren Antrag stellen wollen, eben damit auch ausreichend Informationen haben. Und von daher, ich glaube nicht, dass die Kundinnen und Kunden sich besser vorbereiten müssen, sondern wir müssen ganz klar kommunizieren und klar machen, was wir benötigen. Eigentlich möchte ich, wenn wir auch unser Formular für die Ausländerbehörde fertig haben, möchte ich auch nochmal alle 160.000 potenziellen Kundinnen und Kunden anschreiben, weil ich glaube, neben der digitalen Welt und den verschiedenen Kanälen in den sozialen Medien ist es wichtig, dass die Menschen auch nochmal etwas von uns in die Hand gedrückt bekommen, ein Stück Papier, auf dem ganz deutlich steht, wie ist unser System jetzt. Dokumente können hier ja ohne Termin abgeholt werden. Und es gibt immer noch sehr viele Menschen, die glauben, dass sie einen Termin machen müssen. Und das ist noch nicht gelungen, in den 11 Monaten das wirklich rüberzubringen.
So as Frau Koch mentions, it's not necessarily something that we need to prepare for, but that the immigration office has to do better. So they have actually sent their entire team into the back office. They don't actually do appointments face-to-face anymore. They are doing everything digitally. So it's currently this process that's really, I think, confused everybody at the moment, because they just had a big move and everything right now is all on paper. So nothing at the moment is digitalized. So moving everything over into the digital world is going to take time. And basically she mentions, yeah, you know, they just have to get better at communicating exactly which documents it is that they need, rather than, you know, you having the feeling that one person wants this from you, the other person wants that from you. In the meantime, I would say go through that checklist with a fine-tooth comb and make sure that you have absolutely every single document you need. If you are bringing it in, make sure that you have that in original form and a photocopy version. And then it doesn't hurt to have an additional folder with everything else you think you could potentially need in the case that they do ask you for something else.
In the last couple of years, it's been quite difficult to get a hold of anybody on phone or email. Do we have any plans to make the process a little bit more digital, where one can then upload everything online and know exactly what they need at the right time?
Also im Moment endet ja jeder digitale Prozess bei uns, weil wir immer noch ausdrucken müssen, weil wir die E-Akte noch nicht haben. Aber auch davor sind wir noch nicht ausreichend digital. Also wir arbeiten jetzt, wie gesagt, gerade an einem Formular für die Ausländerbehörde. Das macht es auch einfacher, dann werden die Postfächer nicht, die E-Mail-Postfächer nicht vollgeknallt, sondern man wird quasi durch das Formular geleitet und hat dann auch Vorgaben, was hochgeladen werden muss. Was die Erreichbarkeit angeht, ja, ist immer ein Thema. Wir haben extra deswegen auch nochmal eine Hotline hier eingerichtet. Dafür brauchen wir aber mindestens 10 bis 15 Menschen, die das dann immer so machen. Aber vielleicht ist es auch wirklich eine Möglichkeit, nochmal einzelne Anliegen eben auch nicht nur in die riesigen E-Mail-Postfächer zu schieben, sondern bei wirklich dringenden Sachen auch über Facebook und Twitter mit uns zu kommunizieren.
So this point I found really, really interesting, because this is actually something that I thought of. I always wondered, you know, why isn't there an online portal where, you know, you punch in all your information and then it says, oh, congratulations, Jenna, you know, you can get a 1-year residency permit because you have this and this and this document and you've lived here for this many years. You know, I didn't really understand why something like that doesn't exist, and Frau Koch here mentioned that this is actually their plan. So this is something that they would like to implement, but as I mentioned before, all of our documents, all of our immigrant paperwork is actually a piece of paper. So what they need to do is go through the 160,000 documents and then put them online. So right now, I think it's even more exhausting and more difficult to get in contact with people because they're focusing on these two things at once. So I guess they need to employ a lot more employees in order to get this done. Hopefully they have the budget to do so. And who knows, maybe they'll even be able to hire some of us, some internationals, to also be able to help them in the back office, to be able to understand what needs to be done and to get things digitalized. They simply don't have enough support at the moment to be able to handle the hotline, the telephone, be able to answer all of their calls. This is something that was really frustrating for me, and actually I had no idea they had a Facebook or a Twitter. So this might be a good tip for you guys if you've been trying nonstop, you've sent them hundreds of emails, you've called them 60 times like I did. Well, I never really tried Facebook and Twitter, so you can always try there. I would also say that Frau Koch didn't mention this, but a lot of you guys mentioned, oh, you know, if you send 20 emails in 1 week, you know, that you'll fill up their inbox so that they can see it all. Maybe don't do that, because now that I've had this conversation and I'm getting to understand, you know, what are they working on at the moment, I would say that you sending 20 emails might get them upset a little bit, but at the same time, you know, you're hindering the process for other people like myself who have been waiting a very, very long time for their permanent residency or for a temporary residency or whatever.
Is there a better way to understand the overall process better? For example, a few years back I received a letter with the meeting date for another visa. I had all the right documents, but then realized that I was receiving my permanent residency, so I had to come back again in a year. Is there a way to better understand what comes first, what comes second?
Grundsätzlich kann man das wahrscheinlich machen. Wäre vielleicht auch ganz gut, wirklich so Role Models, das in Videos mitteilen zu lassen. Wie war denn mein Weg? Ich bin als Geflüchteter hergekommen. Ich habe eine Anerkennung gehabt, eine Niederlassungserlaubnis. Ich bin jetzt schon eingebürgert oder ich bin als Studentin gekommen. Das kann man tatsächlich ja auch muttersprachlich, herkunftssprachlich aufbereiten. Aber grundsätzlich ist natürlich auch jeder Individualfall ein Individualfall. Die Voraussetzungen sind alle gleich, was die Titel angeht, aber das, was die einzelne Person dann mitbringt, ist sehr unterschiedlich. Und da ist es ein bisschen schwierig, da wirklich so einen Leitfaden, der dann jeden Einzelfall auch abbildet, aufzusetzen. Aber wir wollen ja in Zukunft weiterhin die Menschen anschreiben und ihnen sozusagen mitteilen, was benötigen wir für den nächsten Titel. Und da muss natürlich auch die Idee sein, immer sozusagen die nächste Stufe auch mit zu implizieren. Also wenn ich als Sachbearbeitung sehe, diese Person kann jetzt aufgrund ihrer Aufenthaltsdauer, Lebensunterhaltssicherung, wahrscheinlich habe ich auch ein Sprachzertifikat da drin oder so, kann auch eingebürgert werden, dann muss das quasi so die Serviceleistung sein, zu sagen, okay, das wäre jetzt die nächste Möglichkeit.
So Frau Koch mentioned a really interesting idea here, and she thought, you know what, maybe filming some videos of the process that other people have gone through might be a really good idea. I want to even offer to do this for them because I think that this would be such a good idea, and at least you get a better sense of what somebody else has gone through and what you perhaps might also go through. Of course, it's also important to keep in mind, as she mentions, every case is different, so yours might not be exactly the same. But I think for us, at least from my point of view, something like this would be really, really, really helpful. She did also mention that their next step in the back office will be to make sure that when you get one residency permit or one visa, that you also are provided in that same moment your next step. So in 3 years' time, Jenna, you have to bring this and this and this document in order to receive this visa or this residency permit. That for me would have been a lifesaver. So if this can actually be implemented, let's hold her to it, and I really, really hope that something like this is able to take place.
Why is the process not always the same? Why does it seem like some workers might have different requirements than other workers?
Der Prozess muss immer der gleiche sein, weil es gibt eine gesetzliche Grundlage. Und tatsächlich haben wir aber auch so, wie wir die Checklisten für die Kundinnen und Kunden nach draußen geben, haben wir für die internen Ablaufläufe sogenannte Prüfbögen, wo ich als Sachbearbeitung eben auch genau sehe, was ich prüfen muss, was ich anfordern muss, sodass es eigentlich nur an der wirklich der individuellen Unterschiedlichkeit der Person liegen kann. Wir haben das halt auch öfter hier, in den Communities wird das ja auch mitgeteilt und manchmal entsteht der Eindruck, Familie A hat das und das bekommen und eigentlich steht mir das auch zu. Ja. Wenn man sich den Einzelfall dann wieder anguckt, dann gibt es eben andere Voraussetzungen, die es dann nicht möglich machen, diesen speziellen Titel mitzuerteilen. Und von daher muss man immer wirklich sehr genau hingucken. Aber intern sind die Anforderungen dann jeweils die gleichen und das wird eben auch über diese Prüfbögen abgesichert.
So I can't exactly say why this seems to be the case, but as Frau Koch mentioned, they actually do have a similar checklist as for us that they go through in order to make sure that you do actually have every single document that you need in this specific process. Now, I don't know if this lies on, you know, how nice your caseworker is and whether or not they want to accept the document that you've provided, but they do actually have a checklist that they legally need to follow when they are going through each and every case. So these were the top questions that you guys asked that I took to the immigration office. But if you have more questions, or if this video has also triggered some more questions that you have for the immigration office, well, write them down in the comment section below, because I mean, you never know who's watching. And I really do personally feel that even though this interview just kind of touched the surface, I do feel that Frau Koch became inspired and, you know, got a couple new ideas of what can possibly happen. I think at the end of the day, they just simply need the support to be able to do it. So I hope that me going there, me asking these questions, me being able to get these questions answered a little bit for you guys helps, but I'm also going to definitely try to do as much as I possibly can in the future to help those of you, you know, who are going through the same thing as me. So I have officially now gotten my permanent residency, but I feel like now that I've gone through the process, it's not over. You know, I feel that I still want to be there for you guys and that I still have the motivation and the inspiration to continue and to try to make things better. So if you have any ideas whatsoever that you would like to send off to the immigration office, or you think I could do something in order to help, then please let me know. Otherwise, vielen, vielen lieben Dank und wie immer, bis später.